Good morning, everyone. My name is Andrew Hunter, and I'm the global chef for Kikkoman. And I'd like to welcome you to the Kikkoman-sponsored session this morning of Portugal, Macau, and Malaysia, flavors, ingredients, techniques, and traditions. Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it. I'd like to introduce to you Abe Conlon from Fat Rice in Chicago. And Abe will introduce his illustrious panel. But Abe is a James Beard 2018 Best Chef of the Great Lakes. And for those of you who haven't had the luxury of going to Fat Rice, I recommend next time you're in Chicago to definitely do that. Without further ado, Chef Abe.
Hi, everybody. Oh, I got double mic'd, huh? Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. We have an amazing group of chefs here that have inspired the recipes and dishes that we do at our restaurant Fat Rice in Chicago. I am not really the chef here. We've brought all of these people from around the world, two from Malaysia, two from Macau, one from Malacca, Malaysia, one from Azores, where my family is from. And we're here to showcase how Portuguese flavors and techniques have traveled across the world, as well as back and pointed to one another based on availability of ingredients. And so this is, there's one person that's not here who has kind of led me on this journey to really discover these things. Her name is Makiko Katayose. And actually, coincidentally, Kikkoman worked with her to take a portion of her thesis. She wrote 2 books on Portuguese influence in Asian cuisine, regarding the similarities between things like tempura of southern Nagasaki to the frito shops of mainland Portugal. This is a map, actually, that we recreated that I found from in the Nagasaki Museum in Japan, and you can see kind of the sea route from Lisboa to the Azores, to Madeira, Cabo Verde, Guinea-Bissau, Angola, Mozambique, Goa, India, Sri Lanka, Malacca, Macau, Nagasaki, and even deep in Indonesia, where a lot of spices came from. So today, in the first session that we had on Wednesday, we kind of talked about ideas of preservation and European principles, kind of traveling this route. This route, we are talking about how all of these dishes point back to one another in various ways, which you will see. I'm very excited to introduce our first chef, Florita Alves. She is the co-owner and chef of La Famiglia restaurant in Macau, China. She's an amazing, precise chef that for many years really only cooked out of her home, but she now has her restaurant with her husband Vitor, and they are one of the premier restaurants, Macanese restaurants in Macau. Even in Macau, you really only have about 4 total Macanese restaurants, because mainly this was food from people's homes. And I have been lucky enough to be invited into many of these people's homes to share a meal and to learn about their food and their culture. So without further ado, Chef Florita Alves. Hi, Chef Florita. How are you?
Thank you, Abe. So actually, I'm Florita from Macau. So very nice, very pleasant to be here to introduce a bit our Macanese cuisine. So it's quite a short presentation, so I would like to compress a little bit. So We can start now.
Absolutely. So we're talking about O Diabo. O Diabo is a fascinating dish that emerged in South and Southeast Asia from the servant kitchens after large European-style banquets where they would have roast beefs, roast chicken, curry chicken.
Yeah, that's it. I have some sample of it. The so-called leftover, Basically, this diabo, we are really going to present this dish after a great banquet. It's in the festive seasons, so all the leftover, we won't waste it. We have to use all these items because Macau is a very tiny place in China. So basically, the resources and all the material is not that abundant. So that's it. The leftover, the housewife will enhance this so-called leftover to another level. So let me talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely.
Because this is the roast turkey or chicken. We do have this bafasa. So this bafasa is a leftover, but basically we will keep all the gravy from the bafasa. Bafasa gravy is basically a turmeric sauce. And we do have over here the Chinese roast pig. So the Chinese roast pig and this roast duck, we do have over here the Chinese ingredient over here. So there's the soy sauce. So actually the soy sauce, I'm just infusing it with some more. To enhance the flavor, I infuse there inside the star anise, cinnamon, and some coriander seeds. So you can see with the sweetness of all these spices, still add a little bit in the sesame oil.
So O Diabo means devil.
Yeah.
So it's a way to take these leftovers and add pungent ingredients like the soy sauce. You use Kikkoman soy sauce and you reduced it down. You added some sugar and some spices as well as chili, vinegar, and mustard.
Yeah, chili, vinegar, and mustard. And another key ingredient I think is a bit of trick is the, how do you call it,
Worcester sauce. I think everybody has a hard time pronouncing that.
Yeah, this is a bit influence of the British because we are neighbor. So from these two colonies, Hong Kong, Macau is very, very near, just about, let's say, 45 minutes of the train by jet flight. So this is all I have there.
I'm going to turn on your pot for you.
Okay. So basically, I do have over here the Indian influence is this curry chicken. The gravy is here, and over here, we do have a very strong flavor meat. This is lamb shank or lamb leg. It all depends whatever we have. So let's start to demonstrate a little bit the leftover. So after that, you will find it is really amazing.
This was one of the dishes that I was fascinated with Macanese cooking, in that it just incorporated so many different influences and so many different types of meat. We didn't necessarily have a large banquet here before we started to make this dish. So yes. Florita has been braising lamb, roasting turkey. We went to the Chinese restaurant to get the suyok. But these are things that you would have maybe in your home, and then you would go out and supplement from.
Yes.
The restaurant. So starting with onion?
As I told it previously, onion is our key ingredient to start whatever we need to cook. Onion, shallots, and garlic. But today, I'm just using over here, the onion, to get the sweetness of the onion. So this one, I will put it aside because we will take time to shred it. Basically, I already have some over here, already shredded. So if the people will say, because most of the time when we cook it at home, we already know the taste of each dish. If we need to balance a little bit, if we need to get more hotness of the thing, we can add actually a bit more of chili. So I'm that one. I like chili, so I would put that inside the chili. Can you see? This one is the components of these 3 gravies. I will put that all over here. The gelatin over here basically is all this protein extract from the skin, from the meat. So this is a very high calorie.
So but a lot of energy. You save all the juices from your leftovers. This is a good thing Thanksgiving is coming up. This is actually a really great, easy preparation to do with leftover ingredients from the holiday preparations, as essentially is what it's based on.
Yeah, that it's not even that little, because when we have to save the bone, let's say the lamb shank, we don't have a bone, we have the chicken bones, we will prepare a kind of broth with the zombro. So after that, we just simmer it. So I will show you. You see, I can smell.
Smells fantastic already.
The taste of the onion. So now there, I will add in our broth.
So you've also made a broth out
Yes.
of all of the bones and everything from
There's
that, which
no waste
waste.
at all. I would call this is very sustainable.
Very sustainable, absolutely.
So after that, maybe we can.
This is one dish, au diable, or devil is a dish that we've done actually at Fat Rice in Chicago, because inevitably at the end of the day you have some chicken left over, you have some roast beef left over, you have some roast pork left over, and it's a very nice way to kind of bring it all together and serve a completely new dish from leftovers, essentially.
Yeah. So let's see if it is okay or not. Basically, we need the.
You can switch this. You want to turn this over?
Yeah. Thank you.
So you simmer this. This
Yeah.
is going to simmer for
I
a
will
while.
need to simmer for a while. So sorry. So since this is the high protein on the gelatin over here, maybe I will need to simmer a little bit to make the things. Can you see, as you can smell the hotness of the curry,
They say that the curry sauce from the leftover chicken is one of the most important things, right?
Yes, yes.
So this is very interesting. You have the flavors of curry with the chili and the mustard, and you're gonna put some pickles in there too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, sure, yeah, sure. So the outcome of this of this diabo, you can find it inside this dish. The sourness and the sweetness from the big pickles. So actually, I would like to show you. This is the pickles. This is the cucumber pickles, and this one's some scallion. So this Chinese pickles. So I won't waste the vinegar that got inside the pickles. I will put there in. So all the balance of this dish, of so-called leftover, is made by this wonderful sauce over here. So it's all about the culture of the taste, I would say this, because this dish is really, really a classic one that we have. So basically, we will eat this maybe once or twice a year, after Christmas, after the abundant banquet that we have a lot of the protein left. So.
And you serve it with rice?
Yes, yes, sure. Because steamed rice is our basic carb that we have there in our community. It's not only bread, because we still have a lot of influence from Portugal. It's not only bread and potato, but also rice. My daily carb infuse is steamed rice.
Absolutely, you can't live without rice.
Yeah. So that's
this
good.
is going to cook down a little bit, and then you add all the other juices. You're going to add the soy sauce as well.
The soy sauce as well. You can just see the thickness of the sauce. Basically, the infusion with this one is thick. It's very aromatic. This is really. How can I put this a little bit, because it's boiling? Yeah. The thickness from the sugar. It's really good. Can you smell
beautiful,
that?
yeah.
It's beautiful, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's so fragrant from the star anise and the cinnamon.
The cinnamon.
So that's going to give a nice umami characteristic to this, And the idea that some of these dishes that I've learned from my friends and that we're teaching here today are a product of tradition and heritage, and not necessarily a chef just kind of putting all these ingredients into the pan because they feel like it.
So as told you.
And mustard.
The mustard over here will give it extra flavor to over here. Of course, over here I have this.
The Worcestershire sauce.
Sorry about that,
Worcestershire
that's
sauce.
really-
And you know, if you know, Worcestershire sauce was also kind of a product of this time because it uses tamarind and anchovies, and it's a fermented product that you know, is a derivative almost of fish sauce in South and Southeast Asia.
Yes.
That became part of a British tradition to use. And you get some influence from, because it was the British were in Hong Kong, so there's a little bit of that, hence the prepared mustard and
sure.
sweet
That's true.
sweet pickle.
Sweet pickle. So now I'll put it inside this. I would have some acidity from the vinegar.
Vinegar will help balance all the rich meats.
Yes.
Wonderful.
So I think we can grab the meat. So let us pretend that the meat is already simmered. I will use this first.
Yeah.
Just want to show it.
You want here? I got you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so I'll grab over here. The meat over here.
So it's a very intense dish, as you can see, this one here. And all the meats get kind of shredded, and the sweet pickles are in there, and it's a really beautiful combination of like Florita was saying, it's just sweet, sour, pungent, chili spice,
Yeah.
and round umami. So,
But you know, we do have another version too, to consume this diabo. Instead of eat it hot. Mm-hmm. The leftover of the diabo, you can have it cold.
leftover of the leftover.
The leftover
Oh my
of diabo,
goodness.
yeah. You can see how.
And how do you
rich-
eat that with?
It's like a terrine, you know. You put
Like
it
a
in
terrine?
It's like a terrine,
Oh,
just
wow.
because all the gelatin from the thing is like a terrine. You serve with a hot steam, right, and pour 1 or 2 spoons of this diabo. Just let it melt.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
See, we're learning something all the time. That's amazing.
It's something that I would like to share with the people who doesn't know much about Macanese cuisine. So basically, we'll need a lot of time because Macanese cooking is really a slow cook. So to save time, because I'm not running yet the time.
Yeah, I think
but-
you're over, but it's okay.
Okay. Oh, really? Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, but that just let me to show you just the big pickles.
Mm-hmm.
I will
And the
just-
pickles go in at the end.
Yeah.
Generally, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you
After
have
that,
this.
Here I have already. Just let me to do some.
And I think we'll be in the marketplace after this, and Florita is going to, if you're lucky, if you're first in line, will be one to be able to share a little bit of this with you.
Okay, let's see. Just want to share a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, over here.
And look how cooked all the meats get, and how thick the sauce is.
Okay. Thank you. So can I grab the? Just want to grab this one.
Yeah,
just
a little
to
chili
make
there
it-
to
yeah,
show
little
that the
to
devil
show-
the devil is in there. The
Yeah.
devil is in the details.
Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Florita.
Okay. So thank you so much.
Thank you. This is really one of my favorite dishes in the Macanese repertoire. Now I will introduce another friend from Macau. So since we went last time, we went from Portugal to Macau. Now we're going backwards from Macau back to Portugal, and we're going to invite my friend Marina Senna-Fernandes. She's going to come out and show us how to make pastelinha. Hi, Marina.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Marina. I come from Macau. Today I'm bringing pastelinha. Pastelinha is a meat, turmeric pork meat tartle. It's a very old recipe. Belongs to those in the group of forgotten recipes of Macau. And personally, this dish has something very intimate. It's an intimate relation for me, because it is a dish that, a pastry that my father loves very much. He was my mentor in terms of, he has encouraged us all to preserve and protect our identity, Macanese history, gastronomy, which is perhaps it may dilute it along with the handover and everything.
So just to elaborate, so Marina's father was one of the most famous writers in Macau, and really wrote about preserving the heritage and the culture, much like Marina and her family do now,
Yes.
not only through cuisine but also through plays and
theaters.
songs in the
music,
the
in
Dosi
music.
lingo, the patois of Macau.
Our Creole and gastronomy and literature.
So what do you have inside? So this just looks like a normal little puff pastry here with.
Yes, this is a puff. This is a puff pastry, a tartar made with puff pastry, and the ingredients are ground pork meat, seasoned with salt, pepper, cumin,
Turmeric.
turmeric. First, you fry the onion or garlic, or no garlic, shallots, and then the turmeric, and you put the meat, stir fried it.
You have a little bit of
some-
soy sauce in there as well, right?
Yeah, use
that
some
you
soy-
also
soy
reduce
sauce
down with
as
some
well.
sugar and almonds.
Almonds. The almonds can be. I prefer powder it first, and then use some cheese as well, and all mixed together. Let it cool down. Put it in a puff pastry, and in small amounts. You cover it, and cut it, and go to the oven. It actually is a very, very easy dish to pastry to do. Yeah.
For our purposes today, I think that the filling is essentially what you call minchi, which is
Yes.
which is kind of the dish of the Macanese community.
Yes.
Of minced pork. I know your family and the one you like to make is always with pure pork and turmeric, but there's also other variations with beef and other things as well. Right?
Minchi is our sort of a national dish. So it's a ground meat, can be pork mixed with beef or simply chicken, fish. And this, we can serve it as a main course, served with rice. But at the same time, we can use this minchi mixed with other spices like turmeric, like curry, or even 5 spices. And this you use this minchi, you can use it in practically in any kind of like this with puff pastry, with pies, with croquettes, with rissoles, anything.
Anything you can put on
anything
just
you
on
like.
breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right?
Yes, exactly. Even you can eat it cold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm very interested in this because everybody likes meat inside of puff pastry.
Yeah. Well, let's cut it.
But I'm going to show the inside, and you can see the beautiful color there and the puff of the pastry there. And this would this be served at a char gordo?
Yes.
Yes.
This is one of the dish of for Shagor.
Char gordo is a family celebration in Macau named Fat Tea. In which we would serve arroz gordo, which Fat Rice, the restaurant, is named after, and then lots of different pastries and tea, usually at the end of Sunday night or something to that effect.
Actually, char gordo is a buffet, but it's not a buffet like we normally know. Is a tea. It's usually served only at 5 o'clock, between 5 to 7, or 7 or 8. It is a combination of tea time and dinner. And usually, this char gordo, you never sit. You don't have tables. You just have a big table, and where you have all the goodies surrounded on the table.
Sweets and savory,
everything.
cakes
You have
and everything.
everything.
I mean,
all food is cut in bite size. You do not need to use fork. That is why it's called shagorda is mainly how do you say it? A buffet. We call it buffet volante. So you're movable.
Right. It's a floating. It's a floating
yes,
buffet. So
exactly.
you're kind of moving around. You're mingling. You're interacting with your family
you
and
have,
friends.
Even in soups, we have a lakasa. Even in soups, we don't use bowls. We don't use plates or big spoons. We use it in cups, very fine cups, and everything is cut in bite size. So this is sha gordo.
Because it's usually for a lot of people, right? And you probably didn't have enough.
No, you can have a sha gordo with 50 people. Usually in Macau, small parties is considered small parties is 50, 60.
That's a small party. See what I'm saying? Small party.
Yeah, small party. So we usually, our parties usually is around 300, 400, 500. It's a very normal.
And it's a way for the community to get together and to.
It's a very normal thing.
Absolutely.
Even nowadays, and in those days, in my great grandfather, he holds sha gordo every Thursday, where you have the music and yeah, that's it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Marina.
Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you. Marina will be making them in the market. We'll have the pastelinia in the marketplace right afterwards. So please come by out and see us and taste this delicious pastry from a time past. One connection with this, you see a lot of kind of variants on this around in the kind of Portuguese influence and Portuguese-speaking world. And for example, my friend Mel from Malacca will be coming out in a moment, and she does a macaroni pie that is, and she's from Malaysia, but she does a macaroni pie covered with a puff pastry. Also, Professor Katayose, in her article tracing the roots of Nanban cuisine, also wrote of a dish called paste, which essentially is a chicken pot pie like you've never seen, with mushrooms and ginkgo nuts and bean sprouts, but still with a puff pastry on top in southern Japan. It's a really fascinating dish there as well. Right now, I'm really excited to introduce another friend who I've met along the way, Chef Melba Nunis. Chef Melba Nunis has Dine with Mel. It's a supper club where she promotes her Malaccan Portuguese cuisine in her home. She has a wonderful book called A Cristang Family Cookbook. And if you haven't picked that up, I urge you to pick that up because it's not available in the United States, and we've specifically brought it here today to share with you. And without further ado, we are going to introduce a mackerel dish and Chef Melba Nunis.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Of course.
Good morning. Yeah.
Welcome to you, Chef Mel. Thank you so much for being with us.
All right. So a little bit about me again. I'm actually born in Malacca. And, 500 years ago, the Portuguese went there and married the local people who were already there, Chinese, the Indians, and the Malays. And so our cuisine has got a lot of influence from these races that, make up our community. We also speak a language called Papia Cristang. And that's, I won't say it's a language, sorry, correct myself, it's a Creole. So the dish that I'm going to show you today is actually called soy limang fish, all right? The fish you can use different types of fish, but today I'm using mackerel. So the word soy in Cristang means sauce, and limang means lime. So this sauce poured over the fish is actually a sour as well as a sweet sauce. And because today I'm using kikoman sauce, it's very intense, I find, so I'll have to put more sugar, more lime, just to balance out the flavors. So maybe we can start frying the fish?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this
am
is...
I frying?
Okay. You'll be my
Mel, we
assistant.
can do that.
More oil, just to fry the
just
fish.
tell me what
yeah.
to do exactly. I don't want to,
Thank you, Abraham. Yeah, so it's like it's a very simple dish because at home, way back when I was a little girl, we are Catholics, so on Fridays, we have to find dishes that are non-meat. We don't eat meat on Fridays, so fish was one of them. And this dish goes really well with eggplant. Eggplant, or aubergines as we call it back home.
So you can make it with eggplant instead of the fish,
Yeah.
instead of the mackerel.
And
May I?
Of course. And it's very popular with my dinners at home, as well as previously in my restaurants, because people enjoy the eggplant and, I guess the flavors from the onions and chilies and the sauce. I don't know, it just complements one another, yeah?
This is a very interesting preparation, if I may, that harkens back to the escabeche of the Iberian Peninsula and also points to the nanbanzuki of southern Nagasaki. Incidentally, my grandfather used to make fried mackerel with vinegar and onions. So you're using lime instead of vinegar.
Correct.
And soy. Also, this could be a cousin of the popular Philippine dish adobo, which combines soy, acid, and you don't have garlic in here, but we have some onion, right?
You mean in the fish?
Yeah.
No, I just season it with a little bit of turmeric and salt to fry, and the sauce will have the onions and the chilies.
Beautiful.
Later.
So then what do we do here?
We just fry the fish
on one side.
Yeah, and then on the
Sear
other.
on one side, get nice and crispy.
Yep. And then
You're okay.
my plate is around. Yeah, it's just at the back. We'll have to put it here when it's done. Yeah, and then I can do the sauce at the same time. Will that be
okay? That
better?
sounds. We can do it together.
We'll
That sounds perfect.
Oh, here.
Maybe you go right there.
All right.
Okay.
Can I get
Cooking with Mel.
later?
What can I get for you, my dear?
Just a spoon. Just this one will be fine. Yeah, up this one.
Mel came with us and to Fat Rice when I met Mel.
The oil.
Oil, of course.
Thank you.
I met Mel about a year ago, but I had known about her because I know that she was also, much like Marina and Florita, with their Macanese culture, preserving her Malaccan Portuguese culture with food that was, I anticipated to be similar, but actually ended up being quite different. And even more influence from India rather than from Macau. So it's interesting the way that all of these recipes, ideas kind of travel.
That's right, yeah.
And if you do look on our profile, I did post the article from Professor Katayose, who also theorizes that this dish is a relative of escabeche in Portugal and the nanbanzuki of southern Japan.
Yeah.
So we fry one side?
Yes, that's right. And the other, and I'll just do the sauce while we wait. Will that be all right?
When my grandfather used to make this, my grandmother would make him have to go to the garage so he didn't stink up the house with the...
Really? Okay. That's a very local fish that we use back in Malacca. It's called hardtail. Have you heard of that type of fish, Abraham?
Absolutely.
The hardtail. It's got a very tough skin.
Hardtail is also kind of in the mackerel of the jack family and has a little bit of kind of spikes towards the end of the tail.
Yeah.
Very rich, oily fish, which is nice when you have the acid and you have the kind of pungent ingredients going
and
along
that's
with
the
it.
normal kind of fish that we use back home for this dish, you know. Mackerel is seldom used, but it can be as well. Yeah? So I'm going to start with the sauce now. For the sauce, you don't need a lot of oil, very little, all right? So just some cut yellow onions in rings, if possible, yeah. It'll give a very nice fragrance. And with cut chilies, here your chilies are so huge, you know. Yeah. Back home, my chilies are so thin.
It's a fresh chili. You usually use a thinner chili.
We don't get this kind of chilies at home, no? It's not so common.
chili is always a common thread. The thing about Mel's food, is it spicy?
It is.
Oh my
It is
goodness.
spicy.
Fire. Red.
Fiery.
This is one of her mild dishes.
Very mild.
This is a mild
Yeah,
dish.
like I said. But if you have a curry or back home we have a chili, we call it a sambal dish. You know, this complements very well with that. Yeah? Okay, so you don't need to really fry the onions until they're very done.
You
So,
like keep a little bit raw and toothsome?
That's right. And then I'll just add a little bit of water. Can you lower down the heat, please? Thank you. And I'm going to put some sauce in.
That's the Kikkoman
The
soy?
Kikkoman sauce. Like I said, I find the Kikkoman sauce really very intense. Really intense. So I've done a little bit of putting more sugar and balance it with more lime. And it tastes really good. I think it's perfect, yeah? So I'm going to put the sugar in now. You don't need salt at all for this dish, yeah?
Because
This
the
sauce.
soy has
It
the
already
salt.
has that. And
And your lime juice?
Yep, the lime juice. I'm looking for that now. Yep, so I'll just put a bit more. As I said, it really gives a very... As the dish says, it's called soy limang. So it's sauce and lime. So it makes sense, right?
Absolutely.
To use,
and pairs well with the fatty fish.
Yep. And
how are you feeling about this, Chef Mel? Ready to
yeah,
cook
yeah.
all the way through?
Yep, I think it's...
Right there?
Yeah, it's
okay.
done.
And then may I put it on
Yes,
the plate?
please. Yeah, that's the plate.
Right there?
Yep. Very nice, yeah. A little bit of pepper in the sauce. Yep. And we're done.
White
we
pepper
just let
you have there?
Yep, white pepper.
Wonderful.
Sometimes, you can just put black pepper as well. I do.
We use some
Yeah.
white pepper in
Yeah.
Malacca?
And yeah, we do, yeah, very much, yeah. So, like I said, this dish is very simple, but it's really, really very nice because it complements, for us, our kind of food. It complements the curries and the sambals because everything is so spicy, so we need to have something that's non-spicy.
Right,
So,
non-spicy
yeah.
with all these chilies in there.
And very little, hardly. What I mean is my kind of, curries and all.
You're fire, as they say. Mel.
Yeah.
And we pour this over the top?
Right, so we boil this a little bit until it's done.
Okay,
a little bit.
thickens a little bit.
Yeah, and can we off the fire
Yep,
now?
absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. And we just put it over the fish like this. So actually the flavors from the onions and chilies go into the Kikkoman sauce. For this, it's Kikkoman sauce because it's very intense. And it really balances the flavors.
The flavors of
yeah,
it.
I find it does,
I
And then with a little bit of spring onions to garnish. And
Beautiful.
yeah, and that's it. And I have rice somewhere.
Rice. We are always rice.
Always rice.
Always rice.
Back in Malaysia, like Florita was saying just now, we eat a lot of rice. So whatever it is, rice is always on our table. And we eat with our fingers. We say dali komang in Krista.
Ali Komang.
Dali komang, yeah. So we help. Of course, there's a spoon to take the food. And then we eat it with our rice using our fingers. And that way, we really enjoy our food, yeah.
May
Have
I?
a of course. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's fantastic. And
It's very intense,
It's
yeah.
intense, but it's mild, and I think all the flavors go into the fish. Would you serve this hot, or is this a room temperature thing?
Doesn't matter, yeah, doesn't matter. Because our rice is always hot, Abraham. So it doesn't matter, Unlike the Chinese food, it's got to come in piping hot, for all dishes. Ours is not. As long as the rice is nice and hot, you can enjoy whatever dish, even if it's at room temperature.
Hot rice, remember that.
Hot rice,
everybody.
yeah. Okay.
Thank you
so
very
that's,
much,
that's
Mel.
that. Thank you,
Thank you,
Abraham. Thank you,
fantastic.
everyone. Okay. Thank you.
Where Mel grew up, there's in Malacca, there's an area called the Portuguese settlement where it's a small fishing village there, and you see like a lot of the boats are very small. So they're not going very far out to catch large fish. They're catching smaller, like you said, the hardtails or things that are more like sardines or very small shrimp as well. But this is a really fantastic and fascinating dish that, again, it's interesting that going around the world, a lot of these cultures point back to my experiences with my grandparents cooking. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our next chef, which is me, Abe Conlon from Fat Rice. We were supposed to have one chef with us from Goa, India, who's also part of this story. And if you look right there on the map as the halfway point between kind of Portugal and Japan, and you can see Malacca there as well, in between, where if you want to go from India to China or to the Spice Islands of Indonesia, you had to go through the Straits of Malacca. It's an amazing place where I've been told at one time there was over 300 languages spoken there. It was literally the center of the world 400 to 500 years ago. However, our friend Sarita Dsouza could not make it because of her a visa application that didn't go well. So unfortunately, I'm here to cook a Portuguese dish that is essentially found. Is this me? Yeah, this is me. Essentially found all over the Portuguese speaking world, generally with different variations. The singular, hisol, or the plural, hisois. And you heard of Marina tell the story of, or talk about that briefly earlier. And this is a really amazing dish that you may have had it before, once upon a time. Excuse me one second. I lost my...
He was boiling water.
Nothing. Just hot water. Yes, please. So essentially, this is a pastry of a cooked dough, almost like a pâte choux, okay? Inside the pâte choux is a bechamel, if you will, of, in this case, shrimp. It's almost like a shrimp bisque wrapped in a turnover. It's really, really delicious. You can make rissoles from chorizo or bacalhau, or really anything. But the dough is made, like I said, from a little bit of boiling water and then some flour, and it's cooked out, so you don't have a lot of gluten development. You have a really like tenderness that stays nice and creamy when you eat this. And if there's anybody been to Brazil and had a coxinha, also a similar where you kind of make a bechamel, put shredded chicken in it, 3-stage bread it, and then deep fry it. I'm stealing this one right here because it's pretty and we need it.
Here, I'll find one for you.
Okay. The way that my friend Sarita in Goa actually serves this, she has a catering company called Yummylicious, which I love the name. Perfect. Again, this is one dish that kind of stays the same around the world, except in Sarita's particular case, she serves it with a beautiful tomato chutney made of cashmere chilies, masala spice blend. We have the recipe for you. So just as I was saying, so we wait for the water to come to a boil. There's also milk, butter, and salt. Chef Florita makes an amazing hisol. Very, very small, much smaller than mine. Essentially, and I'll show you how to make these in a second, but it's a small disc that's been punched out with the filling of the shrimp in the middle. So once this comes up, and you want to boil the waters and then cook the flour so you don't have any chance for gluten development to happen. Once you start mixing wheat flour with water of any sort that is cold, you're going to have gluten development, which becomes stretchy. But as you can see, like with this, it kind of breaks and you don't actually have gluten development, so it makes it very tender in your mouth. A lot of this work and a lot of these cuisines, a lot of it revolves around patience, determination, and arm muscles. You should have seen all of us working together with the volunteers in the kitchen, and our chefs are saying, stir more, stir faster, keep stirring, and some of the chef volunteers upstairs are sweating, saying, am I done yet? And they said, no, keep going till the oil breaks from it or till it pulls from the pan. So a lot of dedication, a lot of work goes into these foods, because these foods are foods of intention and foods of love. And as you can see, it kind of comes off the pot, the sides of the pot there. And then once done, it gets transferred to like a clean surface. And depending on how long you've been cooking for and how resistant your hands are, essentially we need through to make nice and smooth, to get any other flour out of there, or any other flour chunks out of there, and to cool down all the way. And as you can see, it's almost, it's a little bit stretchy, but it has like a really brilliant texture that it's just super soft and creamy, especially with the internal garnish of, of the prawn filling. Much like all of our dishes that we're presenting, we're starting with a little bit of olive oil, some onion, a little bit of garlic. Usually I'd wait a little bit of time to get this sauteing, but they got us on the countdown clock. Excuse me. So really like that, and then it's kept at room temperature until you are ready to make your one risol or many risoles. So just like you're making an ice cream sauce with a little bit of onion, some fat, definitely a little bit of garlic. There's extra butter lying around, you might as well. And you're almost making like a roux in the bottom of this. So whereas this is, the dough is like a very thick roux, this is a little bit thinner, but you still need to have it be relatively, have a good body so it doesn't leak out. Small amount of milk. Salt, pepper. Now you can also, like this could be something you could mix the shredded chicken into. You can also utilize the prawn heads to make this a little bit more rich with prawn flavor. I think that's what Florita does, because hers are very rich and intense with shrimp flavor inside. And also another item for a large party or hors d'oeuvre party, or even sometimes you just see them in kind of the tascas or little pastelerias of Portugal, where you can go in and get one for a snack with a little bit of coffee. We're going to add our shrimp. Beautiful. I'm going to add just a touch more milk to make it a little bit more creamy. And then Sarita likes to put a little bit of cheese in hers. for further richness, a lot of this food is very, very rich, and so you need a small amount. So we have kind of a beautiful filling like that there, that's nice and creamy. So that can get cooled down and then turn into something like this. Let's see here. Essentially, everything is cooked in here. So it's not like you're trying to cook the rawness out of the dough or anything like that. So really, when you go after you've made the risole and 3-stage breaded it, flour, egg, breadcrumb, then you can just deep fry. And then afterwards, if you want to hold them, you can warm them up hot for your guests. So I'm going to start frying these, and then I'm going to show you actually how to fill it. If I can do 2 things at one time. We'll see. My oil is around 360 degrees Fahrenheit. And you have to be very careful when making these so that the nice creamy filling doesn't come out. And really, you don't need any flour. And you can make these, we were talking in the kitchen, you can make them very big, very small. You go to Florita's house, she makes them very tiny, very fine, very beautiful. Okay. Essentially, take a little bit of filling, put it into the center of the dough. Excuse me. Fold over. Squeeze your air out. And the nice thing about it, because there is no gluten development in the dough, you can reuse the dough, as long as you don't get shrimp filling all inside. It is a little bit sticky. Sometimes a little bit of oil is nice. But essentially, then you have this nice little parcel that can go from flour to egg. Excuse me.
And able
To breadcrumb.
to bring Hugo.
What's that?
We need to bring Hugo.
And then Hugo's coming out next, for sure. The next chef that we're going to present is Chef Hugo Ferreira from Azores, where my grandfather is from, and I got a chance to meet him this past summer, or last summer rather, excuse me, and he welcomed me into his home and showed me traditional cooking that my grandfather knew that I did not know. And he is going to kind of come out and show you a dish, a traditional dish called a sorda, and he'll tell you about it, but actually that has influence from South and Southeast Asia because they incorporate the taro root, which they now grow in San Miguel. And while I'm plating this, we're going to invite Chef Hugo to come out and show us a sorda con inyami.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm going to make a very traditional dish that it's from my country and as well from Azores. So as Abe told, it got a little bit of influence, and you can see the Portuguese movement that existed during the discoveries through some of the aspects, like the taro root that we call inham. It's a little bit different than this one, but I think it came so long ago that obviously it changed a little bit the species. And we use a pepper that came from, most probably from South America, and as well, something else that stayed from the time of the discoveries from the Portuguese is the safflower, that it was used to color the fabrics originally. At this moment, we're the only island, I come from São Miguel, that uses this as a condiment. So this is a very basic recipe, usually family or very much family style. Again, we start with pork lard, because in Azores the temperature, it's not enough cold and it's not enough hot, so olive oil doesn't really, we don't get over that originally.
Just so everybody knows, the Azores, the Azores are halfway, the islands off the coast of mainland Portugal, kind of almost halfway between Portugal and the United States.
Exactly.
Beautiful, almost semi-tropical.
Semi-tropical, with 9 islands that have a population that ranges from 140,000 in one island, like the one that I come from, to the smallest island in Portugal that has less than 400 people. That's called Corvo, or the Crow, if we would make a direct translation. So this soup actually was Abe that challenged me to start to present this soup, because he tasted in Furnas. That's one area that you can see the volcano very active.
They actually cook in the They actually cook in the volcanic stufas in caldera,
yes.
in the ground. They have they do a form of cocido there, but also in Furnas they actually grow taro.
They grow taro in
which is not native to Portugal.
Which is not native to Portugal. Just the islands, just Madeira and the Azores use yam. So also, we finished our tour through Asia, so we got back to Portugal, and if we got back to Portugal, we're going to be welcoming bread again, because despite the fact that we're the biggest rice consumer in Europe, we still have our basic starch, that it's going to be the bread. That the bread, not only it's used as a garnish or as a meal itself, for making a hearty soup that would be needed for times of some famine that existed in Azores. So in a bowl, we have our stale old bread. In this case, it's sourdough, very similar to the one that we use back at home. And the taro root that was cooked in water with salt and some vinegar. Not much more than this. So you can see anyone can do this kind of soup. So we start with basically all the Portuguese cuisine.
Refogado.
Refogado. So we go with onions, we go with garlic. And because it needs to push a little bit the flavor and the color, we put our safflower.
Safflower is I mean, kind of in the Portuguese Lusophone speaking world, there's a lot of emphasis on color, right? Whether
yes.
it's from safflower or
the
from turmeric or from saffron, but more or less more turmeric and safflower. We're just learning now the benefits of these pigments in our cuisines and in our supplements. That we're taking supplements all the time with turmeric and safflower.
Okay, so we leave to soften our onions a little bit, and we're going to be serving this with an egg. This is a meal that I usually have, or I usually used to have at home, on a very quick meal that eventually would be just with my father, and he will make this for me. And because we're not from Furnas, we're not from this area, from this small island that people, they don't like to move around much. We like to think that we live in a continent, so it kind of gives an idea that we're big. We actually call the other islands the islands, Us,
We're the mainland?
We're the mainland from there. So, because I didn't add the yam, my father would make this same dish exactly just with the bread. So it's not what's going to happen. I crack open an egg on a little bit of vinegar and leave it to set a little bit. Then, being very Portuguese, we refresh with a little bit of white wine,
Always acid.
always acidity, and because this white wine is not acidic enough, we add a little bit of vinegar. Because some of the white wine that we would use would not be exactly on top of its shape.
So you're saying that after the wine kind of is starting to go bad, it's somewhere in between wine and vinegar.
Between wine and vinegar. That's you're going to taste on our marketplace. I'm going to have a traditional dish from Azores that has a very peculiar wine. That's Isabella. It's forbidden now to do this wine because it doesn't come really from the Vitus vinifera family of wine. But it has a lot of acidity.
A lot of acidity, and used for marinades. And he's
and
actually
we use for marinades. We cooked the beef on that marinade.
and actually with kind of spices that have become indicative of Azorean cooking that are not native to there. Cinnamon, allspice,
Cinnamon,
clove.
allspice, clove, black pepper as well.
Exactly.
So everything is softened, and we add water. No stocks, no. It's really, really simple, poor people food.
At this, as a very basis, I mean, I've just seen this with garlic, onion, water, an egg, cilantro,
Yep, and that's it.
And bread. And that's
In this case, we don't use cilantro. We use mint. I think, and I guess we were actually talking about this the other day. It's because mint just grows everywhere. So every little corner that anyone will have at home, at least they will put a little bit of a plant of mint that it can always be used either for flavoring for savory or for several times that would happen to have like a chicken soup flavored with my mint or a simple tea that my grandmother would give me the tea always with mint. By the way, the Azores is the only tea production in Europe, so also get a little bit of exotic on that part. So it's already boiling. We just make sure that our seasonings, we in Portugal, and I think generally in Portugal, we really like salt. As like the salted cod is almost our national dish. So I think we got used to salt. Probably it's from the sea, so for all the time that we spend over there.
Because salt was a user method of preservation for food, of course. So, but then that naturally gets into your palate. Okay.
And the quintessential ingredient in Azorean cuisine, pimenta da terra, is like a spicy, salted pepper paste.
It's a long pepper.
It's a long pepper.
Yeah, and they say the Azorean cuisine, is more spicy than mainland Portugal because that was one of the ports of call there before they got to the mainland. So that's where the chili came there first.
Yes.
The spices came there first.
The spices came there first. Not much came out, but the most of it came first. So we're going to use a smaller pot to our convenience because the eggs are going to be directly poached in here. So obviously, in the days we will not have many pots at home. We do a small swirl, not being
Beautiful. And so that egg just gets poached in there.
And that egg just gets poached in the liquid. We serve the egg, and then we will add the liquid that's going to be the stock or the older part of the soup. Just before we do that, we add a little sprig of mint in here just to push out the flavor. And we already have one that's not just for decoration, but as well for flavoring. So like this, the egg will taste like egg, and it will not taste like mint.
And the bread gets kind of
And
nice
the bread
and
gets soft and soggy,
and in a good way, and makes a really rich kind of hearty meal with
Exactly.
very little ingredients. I remember that when my great grandfather used to make this, he would raise rabbits, and he would boil the rabbit in the stew and then which I think was very fancy
Exactly.
fancy at the time, I suppose. But my whole family was like, "Oh my God, what is that mushy thing with the egg that he's eating? Oh my God, you don't eat that, you don't eat that." And then I tell them now that, "Mom, Dad, I'm making a sorda at the restaurant and learning for a sorda from my friends." They said, we would never eat that. But now I think it's that connection back to our own heritage that I think everybody is really trying to do through cooking, and really kind of making those connections and understanding of those things.
So we have our egg already poached.
One time.
So mint, I really like mint a lot. And we're almost there.
We're over.
I'm managing. I know that's just a demo, but I always think that food should taste.
Absolutely. People say, how do you learn how to cook? Taste.
Exactly.
And great friends who will teach you, show you their...
Can I get your ladle?
Ladle?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, so we just pour this over our bread.
Is this breakfast? Is this lunch? Is
This
this dinner?
is breakfast, lunch, dinner.
All of
Some people will take this to work, like men that will take to work for mainly working in the fields. Or it will be a fisherman's quick meal. Eventually you can add a little bit of fish in here. Or it could be just a simple hearty meal in the evening, because mostly on our time we would have soups for the evening for eating, okay?
Wonderful.
So this is a sorda de inhames from Azores.
Thank you very much, Chef.
Thank you.
Thank you to all of our chefs for this incredible session. Thank you to Kikoman for making it happen. And I have a handful of recipe packets here for the ones of you who want printed copies of the recipes. You can come and grab them. We'll now go on break and come back here at 11 for our final session. Thank you.
The inspiration for the chicken masahan came from my travel in Israel and filming with Chef Nofa Tamna. It's a classic Arabic dish that we've adapted for the American kitchen. In this version, we're using boneless, skinless chicken thighs, which we season with chicken bouillon instead of salt and pepper on both sides. You start by searing the chicken in olive oil until it's golden, then flipping it and searing it on the other side. When it's slightly golden on both sides, remove from the pot. Add about 4 or 5 onions that have been peeled, cut in half, and sliced, and saute until they are wilted and slightly golden. Add the chicken back to the pot over the onions. Add olive oil to the pot to cover the chicken fully. Depending on how much chicken you're cooking, you're gonna need a lot of oil. Add spices, star anise, cinnamon stick, bay leaf, cardamom pods, and allspice. Cover and cook on a low heat for about 2 hours until the chicken is fork tender. At this point, you're ready to plate. Take the flatbread, brush lightly with Hellmann's or Best Foods mayonnaise, and put on the grill for just a few seconds to get the bread nice and moist. Place the bread on your serving dish. Shred the chicken with some of the onion and some of the olive oil and put it over the bread. Top the chicken with a fresh herb salad made of parsley leaves, cilantro, mint, basil, thinly sliced semi-spicy peppers such as red jalapeno or serrano, and tossed lightly with Hellmann's lemon za'atar dressing and a touch of salt. So here is our final dish, chicken masakan. Enjoy!
Watermelon and barbecue are a match made in heaven. Here's how to make a delicious barbecue sauce infused with the sweet, fruity flavor of watermelon. To make the watermelon barbecue sauce, in a medium sauce pot, combine the pureed watermelon, tomato paste, molasses, dried mustard, smoked paprika, apple cider vinegar, coffee, and salt. Bring this to a boil, turn down the heat, and reduce the sauce by 2/3 or until it's a nice thick consistency. You can use this tasty watermelon sauce on any of your favorite barbecue dishes. Now I'm going to show you how this barbecue sauce adds a special summery sweetness to everyday baked beans. Preheat an oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit. Heat a 2-quart heavy sauce pot on medium heat. Add the bacon and render until it's about halfway crispy. Add the onions and sweat until translucent, and then add the garlic and saute until aromatic. Add the navy beans, which have been soaked overnight and strained. Add the watermelon barbecue sauce to the bean and bacon mixture and stir to combine. Heat on medium heat until bubbly. Cover the pot and place it into the oven for 2 hours. Stir after 2 hours and continue cooking in the oven covered for an additional 3 to 4 hours. Remove the beans from the oven and stir. The beans should be tender with a nice thick sauce. And there it is, watermelon baked beans garnished with fresh watermelon. Serve this great dish on your barbecue menu. This hearty, healthy, and delicious salad features 2 Mediterranean favorites, farro and grapes. The nutty whole grains and savory feta cheese combined with the fresh grapes makes this dish a satisfying meal. First, prepare your farro and set aside to cool. Next, we'll prepare the vinaigrette. In a mixing bowl, add the red wine vinegar, Dijon mustard, honey, salt, and pepper, and mix with a whisk to combine. Slowly drizzle in the olive oil, whisking constantly to form an emulsified vinaigrette. Season to taste and set aside. Now we're going to put our salad together. In a large bowl, combine the farro, red and green California grapes, pistachios, mint, parsley, and arugula. Season with salt and pepper. Toss the ingredients with the vinaigrette, and when combined, gently fold in the feta cheese. There you have it. Farro salad with red grapes, pistachios, and feta cheese dressed with a classic red wine vinaigrette. This salad is great served on its own or paired with a sandwich or an entree. Find this recipe and more on ciaprochef.com/grapes.